My name is Elaine Munro. I am 68 years old, and last Christmas, I learned the most painful and liberating truth of my life. It had been 6 months since my husband, Harold, passed away. He died in his sleep on a quiet Sunday morning, and ever since, our home had been filled with an unbearable silence. No more footsteps echoing down the hall, no more newspaper rustling while he sipped his coffee, just silence. The holidays were always Harold's favorite time of year. He loved the lights, the carols, and especially the big family dinner. So, even though my heart was still aching, I decided to honor his memory by bringing the family together for Christmas dinner, something we hadn't done in years. I made a reservation at Chalet Ridge, the most elegant restaurant in town. It wasn't cheap, $800 for a table that could seat 6, but I didn't care. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I just wanted one evening where we could sit down together, laugh, remember Harold, and feel like a family again. For 3 days I fussed over every little detail. I picked out gifts for each of my grandchildren. I had my hair done, something I hadn't done since Harold's funeral. I even pulled out the navy blue dress Harold always loved, the one he said made my eyes look like sapphires. That morning, I fastened the pearl necklace he'd given me on our 40th anniversary, and I whispered to the mirror, "You'd be proud of me, Harold. I'm holding us together." But deep down, a part of me was nervous. Not about the dinner itself, but about them, my children. Over the years, they'd grown more distant. Phone calls became rare, visits even rarer. Still, I believed this dinner might change that. I believed they'd show up for Harold, if not for me. The restaurant had been decorated beautifully for the season. Twinkling lights lined the windows. A string quartet played soft carols near the fireplace. Every table was filled with families in warm conversation, with laughter and clinking glasses filling the air. As I stood in front of the mirror one last time before leaving the house, I felt a flicker of hope. I told myself, this is going to be the night that brings us back together. But I had no idea what kind of night it would actually become. And I certainly didn't know that by the end of it, I would learn who really saw me as family, and who never had. It was supposed to be a dinner of love and remembrance. Instead, it became the evening that shattered every illusion I had about the people I had raised. The first call came just as I was putting on my coat. "Hey, Mom," Linda's voice floated through the speaker with that practiced sweetness I'd come to dread. "I'm so sorry, but Lily came down with the fever. I can't bring her out in this weather. You understand, right?" Lily, my youngest granddaughter. I hadn't seen her in over 3 months. "Of course, honey," I said, forcing a smile even though she couldn't see it. "Is there anything I can do?" No, we've got it handled. Maybe we can reschedule?" Rain check. Rain check. As if a Christmas dinner was a tennis match that could just be postponed. I tried not to let the disappointment settle too deep. I still had 2 sons. Maybe they'd come. 20 minutes later, my phone rang again. "Mom," Brian began, in that clipped voice he always used when talking business. "I'm sorry. A client's about to pull out of a deal and I have to be in the office. You know how it is." "I understand," I said, even though I didn't. "What about Rachel and the boys?" I asked, hopeful. "Oh, they're helping Linda with Lily. Keeping the kids distracted while she rests. Just a low-key thing. Don't read too much into it." But I was already reading between the lines. My daughter and daughter-in-law, both together. All my grandchildren in one place, just not with me. I sat down slowly, still clutching my phone. That's when Jason called. "Mom, hey, my car won't start and AAA says it'll take hours. I'm stuck, I'm so sorry." I could barely hear the words. I was too busy listening to the echo of my own heartbeat, pounding louder than anything he was saying. I told him it was okay. I always did. 3 calls. 3 carefully crafted excuses, all within the span of an hour. I knew my children. I knew their rhythms, and I knew without a doubt that this was coordinated. It was a deliberate choice. They hadn't just forgotten me. They'd excluded me. And still I went. I picked up my purse, locked the door behind me, and drove to Chalet Ridge. Because as humiliating as it sounded, sitting alone in a restaurant felt less painful than sitting alone at home, staring at a table set for people who had no intention of coming. I arrived early, hoping against all logic that maybe one of them would walk through the door. They never did. The hostess greeted me with a soft smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Good evening, do you have a reservation?" "Yes, Monroe. Table for 6, I replied, my voice surprisingly steady. She blinked, glanced behind me, and then nodded. Of course, right this way. I followed her through the warmly lit restaurant, past tables filled with families laughing, clinking glasses, exchanging gifts and inside jokes I wasn't privy to anymore. My table sat near the fireplace, a beautiful spot, wide, round, too large for one person. The hostess paused. Would you prefer a smaller table? She asked gently. No, I said. Leave it as it is. She gave me a sympathetic nod and walked away. I sat down and stared at the 5 empty chairs. 5 spaces reserved for people who had chosen not to be with me tonight. I ordered a bottle of the Bordeaux Harold used to love. When the waiter poured my glass, he didn't ask where the others were. For that, I was grateful. The wine didn't taste like it used to. Nothing did. I tried to focus on the holiday music playing softly overhead, the smell of roasted meats and herbs drifting from the kitchen. I told myself to eat, to at least make the most of the evening. So I did what I thought would help. I ordered more food than I could eat. Appetizers, entries, dessert. I filled the table with dishes, as if the people they were meant for might still show up. They didn't. It was when I looked to my left that the tears finally came. Just one table over, a family gathered in a perfect little circle. 3 generations, their hands reaching across the table, the grandmother in the center, glowing with attention. Her husband squeezed her shoulder. A teenage grandson leaned in to show her something on his phone. They treated her like she mattered. I turned away, blinking fast. But the tears wouldn't stop. I reached for my napkin, trying to hide behind it as quietly as I could. That's when I heard the door swing open. Running footsteps, a voice cutting through the clatter of plates and holiday music. Grandma Elaine. I looked up, startled. There, standing breathless in the entryway, was Logan. My grandson, no, the boy I believed was my grandson, his face red from the cold and something else. Panic? Anger? I couldn't tell. He rushed toward me, ignoring the hostess calling after him. In his hands was a thick manila envelope. I had to find you, he said, out of breath. I couldn't let them lie to you anymore. I stood as Logan reached the table, unsure if I should be angry, confused, or just relieved to see one familiar face. What are you doing here? I asked, my voice trembling. Aren't you with your mom and the others? He nodded, breath still catching in his throat. Yeah, at Romano's. They've been there all evening. Romano's? My stomach twisted. It was only 3 blocks away. Logan set the envelope down on the table, the flap already loosened like it had been opened in a rush. I didn't know what to do, Grandma, he said. They said it was just a family meeting. But when we got there, Mr. Baldwin, Grandpa's lawyer, was waiting. I stared at him. Why would Harold's lawyer be there? Logan's eyes welled with tears. Because he was reading Grandpa's will. I sat down hard, the air leaving my lungs like I'd been punched. But the will was supposed to be read next month. That's what your mother said. She lied, Logan whispered. They've known for weeks that it was being read tonight. They didn't want you there. They didn't want you to know. He pushed the envelope closer to me. I took this after I left. It's yours, Grandma. It changes everything. My fingers hesitated before opening it. Inside was a neatly folded copy of Harold's will and something else. A stapled packet of documents with a lab's logo printed at the top. What is this? I asked, afraid of the answer. Logan swallowed. A DNA test. Grandpa ordered it before he passed. My mouth went dry. A test of what? Of me, he said, comparing my DNA moms to the family. I looked at him, trying to piece it together. I'm not really your grandson, Grandma, he said softly. Not by blood. I didn't speak. Couldn't. Linda adopted me when I was 2. She told everyone I was a relative's orphaned kid. She never told you. She pretended I was your biological grandson because it helped her get money from you and Grandpa. The napkin slipped from my lap. My wine glass tipped, red spilling across the white tablecloth like blood. Logan dropped his gaze. I didn't know any of this until tonight, I swear. I thought I was really part of this family. And you are, I whispered, surprising even myself. He looked up, startled. You're here, aren't you? I said, reaching for his hand. You came when everyone else turned their backs. His grip tightened around mine. There's more, he said. They didn't just lie about me. They've been planning to take everything. Mom was going to renovate the house in Vermont. Uncle Brian wants to use the investments for his firm. Jason's buried in gambling debt. They've already divided everything in their heads. But Harold left it all to me, I said, staring at the will in my hands. Logan nodded, and they're furious. They thought they had it in the bag. When Mr. Baldwin read it aloud, you should seen their faces. And you? I asked quietly. I sat there thinking about all the times you hugged me, helped me with school, told me you loved me. I couldn't let them erase you. I felt the room spin again, but this time from something different, not grief, not betrayal, clarity. Maybe, just maybe, this boy who wasn't mine by blood had more of Harold's spirit in him than the children we raised ever did. The next morning, after a night of restless sleep, Logan and I sat in the waiting room of Baldwin Associates, the law office Harold had trusted for more than 3 decades. Mr. Baldwin greeted us with a calm smile and eyes that seemed to have seen too much. "Mrs. Monroe," he said, offering his hand, "and you must be Logan. Harold spoke of you often." Logan looked surprised. "He did?" "Oh yes," Mr. Baldwin replied. "He was very concerned for your well-being, and especially for Elaine's." He led us into his office and handed me a new manila envelope twice as thick as the one Logan had brought the night before. "Your husband left additional documents," he said. "Instructions to only share them if there were any disputes regarding the will or concerns over family legitimacy." He paused. "It seems that time has come." With trembling hands, I opened the envelope. Photographs, bank statements, email printouts, transcripts. The first photo stopped me cold. Linda, exiting a high-end spa, just days after she had called me sobbing about struggling to pay for Logan's school uniforms. I turned the page. Brian, dining in a sleek Manhattan restaurant, the receipt stapled to the photo. $800 in one evening. That same day he had borrowed money from me to cover unexpected medical costs. More pages. Vacation itineraries, deposits into luxury retail accounts, spa visits, home renovations. Every dollar Harold and I had given them under the guise of emergencies had been spent on indulgence. Mr. Baldwin spoke gently. 18 months ago, Harold started to feel something wasn't right. He hired a private investigator to follow the money. There was more. A transcript of a recorded phone call. Harold had started placing our family calls on speaker, claiming he was hard of hearing. What no one knew was that he had begun recording them. I pressed play on the first recording. Linda's voice, "She's forgetting things, Dad," repeating herself. "We're worried." Brian chimed in. "Maybe we should help her manage the finances while you're still around. Just in case." Then Jason, "We love Mom, but she's not what she used to be. It'd be smart to plan now." They were trying to paint me as mentally incompetent, laying the groundwork to take control not just of Harold's estate, but of my life. Tears blurred my vision, but I kept listening. Harold's voice came through, firm and clear. "Your mother is perfectly capable, and none of you will touch her accounts." Mr. Baldwin handed me a final document, 15 pages, printed and bound. Protection Protocol for Elaine Monroe, it read. Harold had planned for everything. If the will was challenged, their inheritance would be revoked. If my competency was questioned, a neutral trustee would be appointed. Every asset locked away from their reach, until legal proceedings ended. "He saw what was coming," I whispered. "He did," Baldwin confirmed, "and he made sure they couldn't touch you without destroying themselves." At the bottom of the stack was a handwritten envelope. "For my beloved Elaine, when you're ready to fight back." I clutched it to my chest, not ready to open it yet, but ready for everything else. Logan reached over, his hand steady. "What do we do now?" I met his eyes. "Now, sweetheart," I said with more strength than I'd felt in years, "we take back what's ours. But we do it our way." Because Harold hadn't left behind just an inheritance. He had left me armor. And for the first time in a long, long while, I was ready to wear it. The next day, Logan and I packed our things and drove up to the lake house in Vermont. The gravel driveway curved through pine trees just beginning to frost over, opening to the home Harold and I had built together over 30 years. Everything looked untouched. The blue shutters, the porch swing, the flower beds I hadn't planted since Harold died, and now, all of it truly mine. Mr. Baldwin had given me a new key. Harold had changed the locks before his passing. A quiet message: "Trust only those who show you loyalty." Logan helped me carry the bags in. We didn't say much. The silence wasn't heavy anymore, it was safe. Inside, everything smelled like Harold. Cedar, coffee, and the lavender sachets I had tucked in every drawer. I walked through each room slowly, touching the worn wood railings, the window frames we painted one summer when money was tight, the bookshelf Harold had built by hand. In his study I found the final envelope. My name, his handwriting, the paper shaking in my hands. "My dearest Elaine," it began, "if you're reading this, then our children have shown you who they really are." His words were both heartbreaking and healing. "You didn't fail them," he wrote. "They failed you. And I couldn't protect you in life the way I wanted. So I protected you in death." I sat in his chair and cried, not the hollow sobs of grief, but tears that washed something away: guilt, shame, the years of making excuses for my children's behavior. Harold had seen it all, and instead of blaming me, he had loved me through it. When I finished reading, I opened the safe behind his diploma. Inside was a separate deed to the lot next door. A note beside it read, "Build something beautiful here, something that belongs to you." That afternoon, I called my children. 3 short conversations. 40 years of being ignored, manipulated, erased ended with clarity and grace. Linda sobbed, begged, said all the right things. "I'm not punishing you," I told her, "but I'm done rewarding cruelty with forgiveness." Brian was furious. "You're letting a teenage boy poison you against your own family." "No," I replied. "I'm finally seeing who my real family is." Jason was quiet, resigned. "You really cutting us off?" "I'm setting myself free." The months that followed brought peace I hadn't known was possible. Logan stayed, helped me design the guest cottage Harold had once dreamed of. It was his space now, his sanctuary, and mine. He enrolled in art school, got a scholarship. Harold's trust would cover the rest. And me? I'd built a life that fit just right. Garden in the mornings, tea with Margaret, our neighbor. Evenings on the porch, watching the lake reflect the sky like a mirror. I didn't just reclaim my home. I reclaimed myself. I was no longer the woman waiting at an empty table. I was the woman who stood up, walked out, and built her own. 6 months later, I stood on the same porch Harold built, watching Logan walk across the lawn in his graduation cap and gown. He transferred to the local high school halfway through senior year, said he wanted a fresh start. But I knew the truth: he stayed because he wanted to be here, with me, in a place where he was finally allowed to just be himself. The guest cottage we built together stood tall next to the main house now, with wide windows and a small front porch of its own. Logan had designed it with his art studio upstairs, overlooking the lake. He said it helped him think better when the world felt quiet. And this was our world now. Our neighbor Margaret brought him a graduation gift: high-end art supplies he'd never asked for but always admired. Tom from the hardware store stopped by with a custom mailbox for the cottage, hand-painted with Logan's initials. Jenny from the bookstore brought wine and stayed for dinner. This patchwork community of people who showed up for us not because they had to, but because they wanted to become the family I had never truly known before. That evening, as we laughed under the fading gold of sunset, my phone rang. "Miss Monroe," a young voice said. "This is Amanda Baldwin, Mr. Baldwin's daughter. I just wanted to let you know that we've completed the final instructions of your husband's estate." I stepped away from the group, into the quiet of Harold's old office. "What instructions?" I asked. "Your husband left $200,000 to be donated to local charities, split evenly between the Children's Hospital, the Women's Shelter, and the Literacy Center downtown. He requested the gifts be made in your name." My breath caught. Even after death, Harold was still protecting my dignity, reminding me and the world that I had value. "Thank you," I said, my voice barely more than a whisper. When I returned to the porch, Logan was helping Margaret down the steps. Tom was making everyone laugh. Jenny was packing leftover cake for her daughter. And I was at peace. Later, as Logan and I sat beneath the stars, he turned to me. "Grandma," he said quietly, "I know I'm not your real grandson, but you're the only family I've ever really had." I squeezed his hand, steady and sure. "Blood doesn't make family," I told him. "Love does, showing up does, choosing each other does." And we had chosen each other. This porch, this lake, this quiet, honest life. This was our legacy, our gallegacy. Not what we inherited, but what we built together from the ashes of what others tried to destroy.